Welcome to Sports Econ 101. For those of you new to our show, imagine a few guys sitting around a bar without the drinks, talking sports and business with you, the audience listening in. I'm your host, Edward Brown, along with my co-host, well-known sports personality, radio personality also, Bruce McGowan and Vern Glenn of CBS affiliate KPIX TV in San Francisco. On this show, we discuss sports topics from a business perspective. In addition, we'll ask sports trivia questions where we're giving away vacations to the first three callers with the correct answer. Our phone number is 888-660-4495. Now write that number down, 888-660-4495, because you're going to use that number to answer the trivia questions for 3 vacations given away during each commercial break. That's right, we're giving away 9 vacations during this show. Now, the vacations are not sponsored by the radio station, but by Lighthouse Resort and Marina, which is located 1 hour northeast of San Francisco. The vacations are free. Their only request, a $75 cleaning fee to cover housekeeping expenses. Their website is lighthouseforfun.com. And today's trivia theme is famous number changes. You'll understand when we get into the questions. And on today's show, we're going to try to talk about referees protecting high-profile players such as Sidney Crosby. The question comes up, does the league secretly tell them to protect these guys? Also, at what point should a player hang it up and retire? Another one we're going to try to cover is bad calls that cost players money. For example, Jim Joyce ruining Armando Galarraga's perfect game. You'll all remember that. And professional athletes having to file tax returns in each state they play. A lot of people don't realize that. Also, women playing with men. As an example, Brittany Griner trying out for the NBA. What are her chances? Or what about other sports such as baseball and football? And again, whatever we don't cover today, we will try to cover in the next segment, the next show. You can email us a question by going to Sports Econ 101 and we'll answer it on the air. Now, this segment of Sports Econ 101 is sponsored by IRA Services Trust Company, providing self-directed retirement accounts with more choices, diversification, and among the lowest fees in the industry. Now, I personally use them to hold my diversified IRA. Check them out at iraservices.com. They really do have the lowest fees in the industry. And, of course, my co-hosts here, Bruce McGowan and Vern Glenn, will chime in when we get into the various questions that we have. And you are listening to Sports Econ 101. Welcome back. Welcome back to Sports Econ 101. I'm Edward Brown, your host, along with sports radio personality Bruce McGowan and Vern Glenn of CBS affiliate KPIX TV in San Francisco. Now, a few things we wanted to cover. One, do referees protect high-profile players such as Sidney Crosby? What do you think?
I think so. I think it's an.
I think they get more leeway. That's for sure. Yeah, they get they certainly get the borderline judgment calls. What do you think, Bruce?
No question. I mean, I was at the Warrior game the other day, and I was watching some of the calls that were made against the Warriors as opposed to the Spurs. The Spurs were getting a lot of benefit on those calls. Now, granted, I mean, Tim Duncan's been in the league forever, so maybe you make a little more allowances for him.
Protect his knees and just the fact that he's going to be a Hall of Famer.
I go with the great Ray Fosse on this one. He tells a great story. He was playing with the A's in the 70s, those mighty teams. And then he got traded, and then some judgment call or whatever like that. And he looks like, hey, man, I would have gotten that call in Oakland. And he goes, well, you're not in Oakland anymore.
It depends on who you play for, right?
Yeah.
It's true.
Yeah.
I mean, these guys are human beings. They're going to make mistakes because they've been watching and respecting these older players.
Well, especially quarterbacks. I mean, look at the rules that they changed. In fact, I was thinking about. Remember McMahon getting just slammed to the ground by Charles Martin, if I'm not mistaken, the Packers.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, and it actually practically put him out of football because it dislocated. It did something to his shoulder.
Nasty hit. Yeah.
I mean, that one was that was obvious, but nowadays they protect the quarterbacks a little bit too much. We'll get into that.
Boy, if that happened today, boy, you get a little letter from the league, a little fine, a little lighter in the wallet. Yeah.
I remember when Tony Siragusa dumped Rich Gannon on his head in an AFC title game, and it was an ugly scene. And Gannon kept playing, but he wasn't effective. The league has got to do that, unfortunately, to protect the skilled players.
None of us would get up if somebody like Siragusa fell on us.
No
Well,
way.
if you think about it too, though, if the quarterbacks instinctively know that they're not going to get slammed that hard, they're going to be a lot more effective because they're not going to be as fearful, don't you think?
But I will say quarterbacks are tougher than we think, though. I mean, they're prepared.
Well, you get
to take the hit.
Roethlisberger. I mean, big guy like him, or even Tebow.
I think any football player that goes out there and sacrifices has got to be a little crazy. And those guys are tough. There's not a single football player out there who plays in the NFL or college, for that matter, who's not a tough guy. I mean, I've heard George Atkinson back in the day say, Lynn Swann was soft. He couldn't take a hit. Well, maybe he couldn't take a hit like George Atkinson would like him to take a hit, but he could take some hits.
Well, if you're going to be out there, then you're fresh meat.
Yeah.
Well, I went to school with Stacy Bailey. Do you remember him?
Oh, sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
So Stacy, great guy, but he only weighed about 175 pounds, and he was a wide receiver.
Dripping wet with his
And
shorts on.
that's it. So the funny thing is, if you ever watched him, I mean, he could only go down the sidelines. I mean, 'cause otherwise he would just get decimated. But that guy had a 48-inch vertical leap.
Wow.
In fact, his claim to fame, I think, is the famous Bartkowski Hail Mary, where Billy White Juice Johnson gets the ball and runs through a few San Francisco tacklers and then it gets in the end zone for the winning score. Stacy was the guy who tipped the ball to him.
Oh my God! I remember that game. That was in the
That was early '80s. Yeah, I think that was Bartkowski's big claim to fame.
Yeah.
Beating the Niners.
That's right.
Yeah,
exactly. And so Stacy was the guy who tipped it. But I think one time I saw him go down the middle. He goes down the side and he cuts into the middle, and I started kind of cringing, going, "Don't get hit! Every bone in your body's gonna get broken."
We remember Darryl Stingley so well. Tatum hit him, and it was a clean hit. I was at that game. It was an exhibition game, and it was a clean hit. And unfortunately, he just hit him in the right spot. The poor guy never recovered, and he died a few years ago. And he was in a wheelchair the rest of his life. Very sad.
Remember Ricky Waters? He went to the Philadelphia Eagles, went across the middle, got alligator arms because he wouldn't go up there.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
I love that expression, alligator arms.
That's right. Yeah.
Okay, let's shift gears here for a little bit. At what point should a player hang it up and retire?
Only the player knows that one.
Yeah, that's right. Because it's so easy for us to just sit on the sidelines and judge. When it's over for you. But I think an athlete knows in his or her mind. I guess when you either you don't have the heart for it, you just don't want to get up and just go through the pains of the reps and the practice and do it anymore, or you just feel in your heart that hey, I just can't play at a high level anymore.
It's so tough too because this is what you've been doing your whole life, and all of a sudden you have to walk away from it when you're still relatively young. In your early 30s, sometimes late 20s. It's got to be difficult. You hear stories about guys who retire from pro sports and they go into depression and they lose money and their life falls apart and they divorce their wives. Whatever happens, I could cite some stories. Jim Tyrer of the Kansas City Chiefs, great offensive lineman. Once he got out of the game, he just was never the same and ended up killing himself.
When I do an interview, it's one of my favorite questions to ask of an ex-athlete. When did you know that it was over?
Well, you got to think that these guys, like you say, they retire on average, 35, 36, maybe 40. I mean, you got a lot of years to go.
If they're lucky, they retire when they're 35, 36. Most of them have to get out of the game when they're 26, 27. The average length of a pro athlete's career is about 4 years, 3 years sometimes, 3 to 4 years. So think about that.
I'd like to know the percentage of the guys who leave on their own terms versus the guys who still think they can play and are let go.
Well, that's a good point because I was making in my mind just certain guys who retired pretty much at the top of their game.
Mm-hmm.
Guys like Jim Brown, Gale Sayers. Now he had gotten hurt, but then he came back. Ted Williams. So these guys, you kind of look at them and you say, it's really sad when you see these guys who stay around a little bit too long.
Willie Mays.
I know.
That was so tragic to watch him.
To New York.
Yeah, stumbling in the outfield during the World Series against the Oakland A's. And yet, the interesting thing about Willie, his last base hit as a major leaguer was the game-winning hit in Game 2 of the World Series in Oakland. So, hey, it wasn't all bad.
Yeah.
Well, what a way to go. Hey, Bruce, you had a couple of guys on at the Throckmorton Theater in Mill Valley, one of which was Biff Roberts.
Mm-hmm.
And I believe I asked him that question about when did you know it was over, and he had an interesting story because he's one of the guys that thought he could still play, and I believe he had a 2 or 3 hit game his last game, and he felt like, hey, I see, and they either sent him down or they released him or something like that. It was just, sad.
Well, he was a good player, not a great player, but the problem is unless you're even if you're a superstar, sometimes they push you out the door.
Well, sometimes, we all watch sports. I mean, obviously you guys are there a lot, but you look at some of these people and you go, how did they even get to this level? Because some of them just, don't seem to have it day after day after day.
Some of them are very inconsistent. It's interesting watching Hunter Pence of the San Francisco Giants, who's the most awkward-looking
He
athlete,
is.
and yet the guy is a great ball player.
Yeah.
He really is. He plays with such passion, and he's fun to watch because he's so unique. I think that's why he's a fan favorite.
I will say this though. In the case of Hunter Pence, is he not in a contract year?
I don't know.
It's interesting when you're in the last year of contract, just how much you turn on those numbers. I think if you check, I think Hunter Pence is up at the end of this year.
That wouldn't surprise me. I mean, that has to play into it. Certainly plays into it. I think those of us in the media are more skeptical and more because we look at it that way. We're looking at the money they're making. That's become such a big story, and I wish it weren't, but it's the reality.
I've never seen anybody throw a ball, from the outfield the way he does. It's kind of this weird sort of sidearm, and he's probably the only guy who's ever hit the ball 3 times with one swing.
That was a wild swing.
That was strange. The World Series,
That was very strange. And in fact, you were talking about the ways professional athletes, know it's time to retire, and the 3 things that they pointed out here in this article was, A, your body says no.
Mm-hmm.
2, you're no longer good, and 3, your desire to play has vanished. So there were a couple things I thought were kind of interesting here, where a football player can't play the game without feeling like an 80-year-old quadriplegic. Now, I've played some basketball just for fun pickup games, right? And it's amazing how the next week I'm just so sore. And that was when I,
Are you still playing?
No.
Now imagine doing that every day.
I know.
Imagine doing it for night games right after day games. I mean, and in football, what do you think, Bruce? It's like being in a head-on collision,
it's
like 50, 60 times a game.
It's like being in a car wreck.
Yeah.
It really is. Once a week, you're in a major car wreck.
That's right. I know a lot of these guys, they hate those Thursday games.
Oh,
it's just not enough time to recuperate for the previous Sunday.
And on the subject you brought up, Edward, about when it's over and all this kind of stuff, how about being the guy, the veteran presence on the team, and then you got a younger guy, rookie maybe, on there, and everybody knows they're there to replace you.
Alex Smith and Colin Kaepernick. Alex Smith goes down with injury, and he never gets his job back. And he was having the best year of his career.
Yeah, we're going to pick this
Wally
up.
Pip.
We're going to pick this up right after the commercial break. All right, so here's our first first trivia question. Kobe Bryant now wears number 24. What was his number before that? The first 3 callers with the correct answer win a free 3-day, 2-night stay at the Lighthouse Resort. Their website is lighthouse4fun.com. Call 888-660-4495. That's 888-660-4495 to answer
What's that number again?
Kobe Bryant now wears number 24. What was his number before that? 888-660-4495. Make sure to include your name, your email address, speak slowly, and spell out your email 1 letter at a time. Don't touch that dial because Sports Econ 101 will be right back.
Having a clue.
8.
Just
a saint.
Yeah.
All right, here we go.
Yeah, we're back.
We're back. Okay, hold on a second here. Welcome back to Sports Econ 101. I'm Edward Brown, your host, along with Bruce McGowan and Vern Glenn. When we cut to the first commercial break, we asked this trivia question. Kobe Bryant now wears number 24. What was his number before that? Vern.
Wasn't 7. It wasn't 9. What's that number in between?
8?
Oh, 8. Yeah, that's it.
No, number 8.
God, you guys are great. I had no clue. None. I always thought he was number 24 because of Willie Mays and Rick Barry, but I guess it shows you what I know.
Well, how many years did he wear number 8?
Or 8. Gosh, at least first 7 years of his career.
That's been a while.
Yeah.
That's why he had hair too.
It's funny.
That's right.
I used to pay attention to numbers all the way until I was in my 20s, and outside of Montana and Young, I don't remember, and Jerry Rice, of course, I don't remember anybody's number. It's weird.
I'm pretty good with numbers. Phone numbers is one thing, but uniform numbers, I'm pretty good.
Well, ask me about the 1960s or 70s, and no problem, but 80s, 90s, and beyond,
Ron Bryant.
No, I don't know. 32, maybe?
I don't know.
I'm thinking.
I wore 32 because of O.J. Simpson when I was a kid.
O.J.
And I was playing a little 7th, 8th grade football. Oh, that was the juice.
Boy, not to get off on a tangent, but did you see him on television the other day? I was so sad.
Yeah.
Poor guy. I mean, I really feel sorry for O.J. I know he's made his own bed, but he looked just pathetic. It's very sad.
Yeah, I got to know a little bit, Joe Angel, the former Giants, with the Orioles. When I first got to know him, but he was a quarterback at Galileo High School in San Francisco, and O.J. was in the backfield. I said, Joe, What was it like playing with O.J. Simpson at Galileo? He goes, yeah, just handed off a lot.
You know what,
That's right.
Quick funny story, because for some reason that reminded me. There's a guy who does some work with me who is the same age as Jerry West. And turns out that they played at rival high schools.
Wow.
And they both played basketball, obviously. Jerry did, right? So this guy tells me the story that he said, yeah, we had to play the rival school, and nobody wanted to guard Jerry because he was as good in high school as he was in the pros, right? So this guy, his name's Rocky, he goes, Coach, I'll guard him, right? And so Rocky says that, Jerry scored like 39 points against him, right? So I meet Jerry just before the strike a couple years ago, and they're introducing Mark Jackson and all that. So I went up to Jerry and I was telling him the story, because Rocky says, ask him Zeke from Cabin Creek, because that's
Cabin Creek.
Cabin Creek. That because they're both West Virginia.
Sure.
So I go up to Jerry. I said, do you know Zeke from Cabin Creek? And he just kind of smiled, like, how do you know that, right? And I said, well, there's this guy named Rocky who played at a rival school, and one time he was told to guard you, and he scored 39 points against you. And so Jerry kind of looks at me with a very sweet smile and says, I don't think so. And I go, oh, wait a minute, no, I got that right. You scored 39 points against him. That's the story. There you go. That makes a little more sense.
Good story. I like that.
Okay.
Yeah, Jerry West is, he doesn't come around here too often, but I tell you, he deserves some of the credit for what the Warriors have done this year.
Yeah.
I mean, advising them on bringing in people like Harrison Barnes and Draymond Green and, the young veterans they got, and Jared Jack and Carl Andrew. That's a team that's going to be around for a while.
I've got the ultimate trivia question.
Okay.
I mean, I nobody in this audience will get this.
Go ahead.
Nobody. Okay. West Virginia, with the logo, that won the 1959 NCAA champion. He was co-captain of the West Virginia team. Who was the other co-captain? I'm telling you, nobody will get this.
Well, have we?
Nobody will get this.
Here's the question: have we ever heard of
Very
this?
famous last name. Very
okay.
famous last name.
59 couldn't be Russell.
In fact, this guy.
San Francisco.
Okay, here's the clue. Or his daughter became world famous. Even was on the cover of a Wheaties box.
Oh wow! Now you got me intrigued.
Okay.
I just know that in 1960, Cal won the championship with Pete Newell's great team, but 59 was West Virginia, right?
That was West Virginia.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay, you're gonna have to tell us.
Okay. All right. One more clue. Okay. Now, she made the cover of the Wheaties box because of what she did in the Olympics in 1984. Mary Lou Retton. Yeah, right.
Oh, my God.
Bill Retton was the co-captain
Never would have gotten that
on
one.
that West Virginia team.
Boy, that's a good one.
Never would have gotten that one. No
I gotta remember that one.
Damn, I'm good.
Yeah. Okay. All right. I got one for you here. Obviously, the pitcher's mound is 60 feet 6 inches, and you probably already know that it used to be 54 feet.
That was what, back in about the 1880s or something?
Okay. Here's the question: based on what pitcher did they move it back to 60 feet 6 inches?
Christy Mathewson? No.
Before him.
Cy Young?
Before him. That's what's tough.
Cy Young.
Before Cy Young.
Before Cy Young.
Had been somebody that threw hard.
Yep. I'll just have to tell you because we don't have too much time to go with this.
Okay.
Amos Russi.
Amos Russi.
Oh, no, I never would have gotten
Never
that.
would have gotten that one. Okay, we were talking
Great
about...
Giant, by the way. New York Giant.
That's true.
He was there with the Giants.
That is
very good.
amazing knowledge.
You like that one?
Yeah.
Amazing.
Okay, the three-way... Okay, we're talking about professional athletes and time to retire. So I like this one here, too. When a pitcher can't throw side session, they call it, without feeling extreme pain in his elbow or shoulder.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see here. When a basketball player can't sprint to half court without feeling sharp pains in his knees. And it says here's the problem. One of the problems is today's medicine, with all the high-tech treatments, players can now fool the body into thinking that everything is okay. So some players, taking cortisone shots.
Oh, sure.
Well, look at Kobe Bryant.
Yeah,
Look at Kobe Bryant. I'm sure that all the residual work, and the effect of that work had that residual effect on his Achilles tendon that caused it to tear. All that heavy work for years and years and years.
Yeah, Steph Curry.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
He's taken the needle a couple of times.
Yeah. And if
in the Spurs series.
I've heard after a while, it just doesn't work anymore, does it?
No, I think when you're in your 30s, it's time to. If you're Steph Curry is lucky because he's not a big guy, but Andrew Bogut, 260 pounds, I don't think he's ever going to be the same.
Yeah, he made the point. He said, "Hey, I'm 7 feet 265. It's a lot of weight, on that ankle.
It's like a horse.
Yeah.
It's like a racehorse with a broken leg.
Is Curry even?
They're not going to shoot Andrew Bogut, are they?
No.
Well, the ankle, you don't get too much blood going there, and that's the whole thing. Blood kind of heals and stuff. Okay, so we also have here, let's see here, Favre. His annual, charade became difficult because his body was screaming for him to tell him to stop. Okay, so now the other part is you're no longer any good. So one of the saddest things in sports is to see your favorite player struggle. We talked about like early days and all that. And let's see here. Well, the other thing was about your desire to play has vanished. Now that's a tough one because, like you said, that can really get.
I don't think too many athletes go out there. Do you, Vern, that lose their desire to play? I just haven't seen it. I mean, they may not be able to play at a high level. They may not have it day to day, but just losing their desire, I don't know.
The only person I can think of that came close to it was when Tiki Barber, then for the Giants, he said he was in warm-ups before a game. This is last year, and he just looked around and he said to a teammate, "Say, you know what? I'm done."
Wow, I never heard that.
And he walked away at the end of the season.
Yep, that's amazing. Wow.
They were talking here about Jamarcus Russell. Now, he hasn't been around that long, right?
Trying to make a comeback. Hey, he's trying.
But they said they had to tell him to stay out of McDonald's because he couldn't stay in the gym. And a lot of times they get so much money.
I don't feel sorry for Jamarcus, though, because he's set for life if he's smart. And he didn't seem like a dummy to me. He seemed like a kid that had a little intelligence. You have to be quarterback, so I think he'll be okay.
But I just think you're a product of your environment. I mean, I think you are who you are. I mean, he was a guy from a small town in Alabama that just didn't know anywhere. So much happened so fast.
Well, you get so much money.
Yeah, that's the problem.
Back in the days of Ted Williams and all that, they had second jobs.
What is it, 90% of, no, it wasn't that many, but it's not that high percentage. But you were saying last week, I think, wasn't it? That
how many are out of work or whatever, out of money? With 5 years of retirement?
Yeah. It's like 65% of them. Yeah, it's kind of crazy because, these guys, I don't know, what happened to, like, earning your pay each year? Rather than getting.
Well, that's what it was for years.
Yeah.
It was that way for years. It's that way to a lesser degree in the real world, I think, nowadays. If you're in a high-profile position, but most of us have to work, paycheck to paycheck.
Yeah. I think most of America lives paycheck to paycheck.
Oh yeah.
So if the desire vanishes.
We do in the Glenn house, that's for sure.
That's part of the deal.
My wife keeps me excited to go to work, or else I can't come home. Okay, so what else do we want to cover here? Let's see. Bad calls that cost players money. So think about this. Jim Joyce ruining Armando Galarraga's perfect game. A lot of people don't, but everyone talks about the perfect game, but a lot of people forgot that he also lost the no-hitter.
Lost the no-hitter, lost the perfect game.
Yeah.
Didn't lose the shutout, but the sad thing about that was that he not only lost his moment of notoriety, but it was so obvious. And then Joyce felt so badly about it. The good thing was,
that was good.
You know what was good about it also was that Galarraga handled it so well.
He really did.
I mean, how many guys would have been able to handle it that well? And Matt King, when he had a perfect game last year, he got the benefit of a great catch by Gregor Blanco. But think about that. The last play of the game was a ground ball to third. It was a close play at first base.
That was a hard. I don't think Pablo could have made that play.
No.
That one was definitely pretty tough. Okay, and because if you think about it, how much money would Galarraga have gotten if he got that perfect game? You know what I mean? Like for the next year, for
there are guys though that throw no hitters in perfect games and don't get anything extra because it just happens once in their career.
Right.
Philip Humber is an example. He's now pitching. Philip Humber. Yeah, exactly. Who is that guy? There's another example of a guy that came out of nowhere. So sometimes it's the nobodies that do it though because the unfamiliarity that the other hitters don't know who he is.
And then you're going to work the other way around. You go out and have a game like Joe Flacco did in the Super Bowl. Every completion, it was ka-ching, 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 because he knew he was going to. And they had offered him big money before the year began, and he went, let's just talk after the season, and the price went up.
Oh yeah.
You know what still galls me about that Super Bowl? And I love Jim. I love Jim Harbaugh. He did a great job at Stanford. Did a great job at 49. You give Colin Kaepernick first and goal at the 4.
Run it in.
And run it in. Yeah, they had their nose tackle was missing. The Niners were killing him on the ground, and he runs 4 wide. Runs out, rolls out to the right, tries to hit.
And there have to be at least 3 people calling those plays.
Yeah.
Because from upstairs, there's got to be in the transmitter. And you got to execute the play.
Hold on to that thought because you got some other bad calls to go over here. Okay, Michael. Okay, we're going to cut to our second commercial break here. Michael Jordan used to wear number 23. Now, when he came out of retirement, what number did he wear? The first three callers with the correct answer win a free 3-day, 2-night stay at the Lighthouse Resort. Their website is lighthouse4fun.com. Call 888-660-4495. That's 888-660-4495 to answer this question. Michael Jordan used to wear number 23. When he came out of retirement, what number did he wear? 888-660-4495. Make sure to include your name, email address, speak slowly, spell out your email one letter at a time.
What was that number one more time?
888-660-4495. Okay, and we'll be right back. It's amazing how many people.
Oh yeah, you have to hit it 3 times at least.
Yeah.
And I went to the DMV to get. That's for damn sure.
Okay, here we go. Welcome back to Sports Econ 101. I'm Edward Brown, your host, along with Vern Glenn and Bruce McGowan. When we cut to the second commercial break, we asked this trivia question. Michael Jordan used to wear number 23, but when he came out of retirement, what number did he wear?
No clue. Vernon?
Well, let's go in increments of 5, starting with 40. We go 40, then 45.
There you go. And stop right
45?
there. 45.
Yeah,
Good,
yeah,
good.
yeah.
That was when he was with Charlotte, right? When he
No,
came
no,
back?
no, he went
No,
back to the Bulls.
he came back to the Bulls.
But I
He
mean,
was 45.
okay.
At 45, because someone else had number 23.
Then he thought, hey, I could play the game, so I could run a team. Wrong.
Yeah.
Didn't he play for Charlotte for a while?
He
Though, too?
the Wizards. He played for
Oh,
the
that's right,
Wizards,
the Wizards. That's right.
But
He
he
owned,
owns
yes,
the-
owned
Mhm.
Charlotte.
Okay.
Yes.
So we're talking about worst call. Well, actually, we're talking about bad calls, right? So recently, you were just mentioning off air about Oakland, and that actually cost them cost them the game. I mean,
Yeah.
they would have tied up the game.
And Joe Torre later admitted that they made a mistake. The replay showed it was clear it was a home run. The
Yeah.
guys were looking at the replay, and all 4 of them got it wrong. How could they do that?
And the thing is, it's funny. My brother pointed this one out to me. I mean, we all could see the ball bounce back in. You can see the trajectory of the ball, and it was obvious. But what he said was obvious was when you look in the stands, because it was in Cleveland, and you could see the fans getting all frustrated and upset because it was a home run. And I don't know how many people pointed that out.
Would have tied the game at the ninth
that's
minute.
it.
Yeah,
Would have tied it.
what I don't understand is why are these ballparks set up where they have a fence, and then if you hit it over the fence, it hits another fence and bounces back in. Why not just have a fence with nothing behind it, and then you wouldn't have this problem?
Because too many complexes are multi-sports stadiums, so they have to convert it somehow. When it's
No
not
excuse.
Yeah. Or how far back would fans have to be? That's I think that's what it probably comes down to.
Do you remember that horrible thing that happened a couple years ago where the guy fell out of the stands? He was trying
in
to-
front of his son.
And he
my
died?
Fell to his death.
Josh
Yeah.
Hamilton. I mean, he just tossed the ball up to him.
Oh, that's right. He tossed the ball
Yeah.
up to him. Yeah. Oh, that was horrible.
Yeah, that was really bad.
Yeah.
Okay, so other bad calls here. In the 163rd game of the 2007 season, the Colorado Rockies and San Diego Padres battled to see who would be the wild card team. You guys remember that one?
Vaguely.
Okay, so through 162 games, they were tied. Bottom of the 13th inning, with the Rockies down 8-6, to the Padres. Outfielder Matt Holliday hit a big triple to tie the game at 8-8. So with Holliday on third and still no outs in the inning, the Padres intentionally walked power hitter Todd Helton to bring in the more average Jamie Carroll to the bat. In his bat, Carroll hit a line drive to right field, which was caught by the Padres' Brian Giles. After the catch, Holliday tagged up at third and tried to beat Giles' throw to home. The throw was on target and landed in front of the Padres catcher Michael Barrett, who blocked the plate and applied the tag. Holliday slid. Then everyone's favorite umpire, Tim McClellan, made the delayed safe call, resulting in the 9-8 Rockies victory in the entrance into the postseason. And unfortunately, replays showed Holliday clearly never touched the plate.
Now I do remember that. And of course, the Rockies went to the World Series that year against the Red Sox.
Yeah.
How about that?
Yeah.
You think that was a bad call? Did that change a little history there?
Oh, man.
Yeah, a
Yeah.
little frustrating.
You think?
Okay. And then, if you guys remember 2005, the American League Championship Series, A.J. Pierzynski was up to bat in the bottom of the ninth. And there was Pierzynski took a couple of steps towards the dugout because it was obvious it was strike three. And the umpire, let me read this here. Okay, the third strike was not dropped by the catcher, and Brzezinski should not have been allowed to take first base. But the ball got caught. I caught the ball, so I thought the inning was over. In reality, he did catch the ball, but Doug Eddings, the umpire, never called Brzezinski out and made no audible call. So he thought that he actually had dropped the third strike.
I do remember that one too. Yeah.
Brzezinski thought he had dropped it and he took off for first.
No, Brzezinski thought he knew.
Well, Brzezinski knew, being the catcher.
Yeah. So he knew, and that's why he started to walk off towards the dugout.
Mm-hmm.
But the umpire, and so did the catcher. He knew it too, but the umpire made no call. So
the umpire had a brain fart.
Yeah, that's exactly what
Wow.
they called it. Okay.
He had a brain fart.
Okay.
Ooh.
Do you guys remember now this is going back to the 1975 World Series, Game 3, and Cesar Geronimo of the Cincinnati Reds leading off the 10th with a single. And pinch hitter Ed Armbruster dropped down a sacrifice bunt that bounced high in front of the plate. When Red Sox catcher Carlton Fisk attempted to field the ball, Armbruster intentionally collided with him, instigating a wild throw to second base in an attempt to throw out the lead runner. And Geronimo immediately protested that Armbruster should have been called out for interference by home plate Larry Barnett, as he clearly interfered with Fisk. They also argued Geronimo should return to first base, and this was appealed. That didn't happen. Then Joe Morgan goes ahead and hits a single that scores Geronimo that gives the Reds the 6-5 victory. And if you remember,
the Reds won that series by one game.
That's right.
Yes.
That's what I was just going to say. Because remember Game 6, you have famous
Carlton Fisk homer off the foul pole. Yeah.
Okay. And few people can forget 12-year-old Yankees fan
Jeffrey Meyer.
Jeffrey Meyer. Yeah. That's right. I mean, that was a big one too. I really need to go
against Baltimore. Oh, that Oriole fans still have a red ass about that one.
Yeah. And that again. Well, there's another subject we'll get into another time based on that kind of stuff because I've got some good stuff on that. But,
how about a subject? How about a segment on fan interference where if it had not happened, the outcome would have been different. Yeah.
Steve Bartman.
Dusty Baker, he still could be managing the Cubs. Could be.
And the Cubs could have been world champions.
That's right.
They could have been.
They
would have. They would have knocked the Marlins out, and they would have been in the World Series.
Can you imagine? Can you imagine a world where the Cubs would be World Series champion? I don't care if you're I don't care if you were the equipment man. You would never pay for another meal in Chicago again.
Well, it's the curse of the billy goat. You know, that guy tried to bring the billy goat in 1945. The ushers said no, and he said, "Oh, I'm going to put a curse on you."
And but what happened between 08 and 1908 and 1945?
They had a couple of good teams.
Yeah, they never
quite got over. Well, they had to play the Yankees. Yankees clobbered them in, I think, the early 30s.
Yeah, that's a shot. Where you called the shot?
Babe Ruth called shot at Wrigley Field.
There it is.
Yeah.
Okay, let's try this one. 1985. I remember this one really well too. The Royals versus Cardinals. Right. That's the
Whitey Herzog's Hares. Yeah.
Don Denkinger. Yeah.
That's it.
Base, yeah.
That's it exactly. And if you think about it, had that call been changed, literally the Cardinals would have won the World Series.
Oh yeah, no question about it. That was the 6th game that tied the series up. The Royals went on to win it the next, and they clobbered St. Louis in the finale. And it was, if you're a Cardinal fan, that one just really sticks.
Actually, I was a Kansas City fan. So,
you didn't like so much.
Well, let's put it this way: I didn't like the Cardinals
so much.
I bet your Bay Area resident Willie McGee remembers.
Oh boy, don't ask him about that one.
Oh man,
you know what Willie remembers though? He also remembers the Giants' Jeffrey Hackman Leonard doing his one flap down.
Yeah, one flap down.
In the '87 playoffs, and he told me, he said, Lord, after one of those games, he goes, Lord, if you only let us win one World Series, let it be this, or one championship series, let it be this one. We want to beat those guys so badly.
Well, you know what's funny? Buddy Biancalana played shortstop for Kansas City, and he was a local boy here in Marin County. So apparently, and he wasn't a very good hitter. He happened to get a triple in the World Series, which was great. But other than that, he hit the low 200s. But he was a very good shortstop. So apparently, the story I heard, I didn't see this, but I heard, is that he gets invited to go on David Letterman. And, and the idea was, Letterman's going to make fun of him and say, so, buddy, but you got a hit in the World Series, so you're a little bit closer to getting Pete Rose's record, aren't you? Or Ty Cobb back then, because that was before he broke it. And so Buddy apparently just right off the cuff says, well, I'm a little closer to him than you are to Johnny Carson.
Oh!
Good comeback
A
there.
little bit of a comeback there.
Oh,
Like that
sure he
one.
was ready for that one.
Yeah. Buddy Biancalona still involved in baseball, by the way.
Is he really?
Yes, he is.
Where? Locally? Or?
No, not locally. He's doing some kind of scouting thing. I saw him at a reunion of Redwood players, Redwood High School from Larkspur. He was like the pride and joy of that high school, and he showed up for a dinner. So good guy. He's probably in his late 50s now. Mid 50s.
Actually, he was a year older than I. He's 54.
Mid 50s. Okay.
Yeah, exactly.
I stand corrected.
One quick thing about that Oakland A's play, the one that the home run did not get called. If I understand correctly, Angel Hernandez was the crew chief, and I was listening to the radio a couple days ago, and the commentator had pointed out that Angel Hernandez hates instant replay.
Yeah.
Here you got a guy who is, if he looks at the replay and sees who, but if he doesn't like it, he's not going to call it that way. So
Well,
you kind of
think about it. Just until a few years ago, we had no replay in baseball.
Yeah.
None. Now, it's everything. I mean, football is ridiculous, and basketball also, hockey. But it's good. I mean, it's.
But I'm a fan of getting it right.
Yeah,
that
Just
makes
get it right.
But it's hard.
You know?
I don't know if you guys have ever officiated games. I did softball games in college and some basketball games. And basketball is really tough to
that's
do.
tough.
It's very hard. I'm surprised these guys get it right most of the time.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah,
I really am.
they do, and there's only usually three of them on the court, basketball.
Yes. There used to only be two.
Yeah.
When I was doing it, it was one, just me. And I wasn't very good.
Did you just stand in the middle at just half court the whole time?
No, I didn't know where to go, and I was gone after one game. That was it. That was enough.
Well, sometimes when I would
I was harassed out of that game. Ugh,
when I would a
embarrassed.
softball, and I was the only one doing it. I'd do it right from the back of the pitcher's mound.
Yeah,
It's
there
easier
you
to
go.
call balls and strikes, then you're right in the middle. And you can call everything.
Good play. A close play at second base. You're right there. Yeah. Good call.
For some reason, I had this down here on the bad calls. What about the tuck rule?
Oh, God, I was there.
I was there.
I was there.
I was on the sidelines doing the Raiders sideline reports.
Now I was in the end zone
Yeah.
with my cameraman, and it just happened, and there was this long break. We forgot it's a TV timeout, and immediately we're looking into possible flights to Pittsburgh because that's where we were going to go.
Yeah.
And we're like, man, this is a really long timeout. What are they? Then we realize they're reviewing this play. What? It's a fumble.
Yeah. You know what was amazing about
It's
that night?
still a fumble.
Yeah, it was. You know what's amazing about that night? That they played on snow. That was about 4 inches of snow in here. It was like playing on an ice rink. It was ridiculous.
Yeah, Adam Vinatieri was the man, though.
Well, the Raiders blew that game. They had nothing. Nobody to blame themselves because they didn't stop them after that, and they didn't stop them in
That's true.
overtime.
They just could not. They
Yeah.
couldn't stop. They just kept backpedaling,
Yeah.
and
That was John Gruden's last game. If they win that game and they go to the Super Bowl, I think the Raiders, Al Davis, is going to have to keep John Gruden around. And they wouldn't have gone to Bill Callahan, and they probably would have won the Super Bowl next year instead of getting blown out.
might have won a couple of them.
Yeah.
The way they were going.
We got about a minute and a half. So, Bruce, unfortunately, kind of a sad story. Chuck Muncie died on Tuesday.
Cal Star of the 1970s. Great running
You
back.
said you had a story that you wanted to
Yeah, real quickly. First college football game I actually ever covered as a paid member of the media, and I don't think I was making much money in those days, was the big game in 1975, and Chuck Muncie at Stanford Stadium scored 4 touchdowns in that game.
Wow.
Amazing show.
Second in the Heisman voting that year.
Yeah, that's right.
And you know
Behind Archie Griffin.
Archie Griffin, who won it the year before
and
also.
real quick, a little trivia for Bay Area fans. You remember this guy, Joe Roth was the quarterback. He would have been a great pro, but he died of cancer at the age of 21.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Great quarterback. Yeah.
All right, guys, we're going to cut to our third and final commercial break. What soccer player changed his number from 28 to 24 to 7 to 10 and finally 23? I feel like saying hike after this. Out of admiration for Jordan. First 3 callers, again, with the correct answer, win a free 3-day, 2-night stay at Lighthouse Resort. Their website is Lighthouse for Fun. Vern, what's the phone number? I'll tell you, 888-660-4495.
Could you tell from my pregnant pause that I did not know?
888-660-4495 to answer this question. What soccer player changed his number from 28 to 24 to 7 to 10 to finally 23 out of admiration for Jordan? Make sure to include your name and your email address. Speak slowly and spell out your email letter your email one letter at a time. And stay with us because Sports Econ 101 will be right back. I bet someone accused him of being a woman.
What's that?
Changing his mind.
Oh, it's funny because my wife is more like a guy than a woman in that regard.
Welcome back to The Best of Investing. I'm Edward Brown, your host, along with sports personality Bruce McGowan and Vern Glenn of CBS affiliate KPIX TV in San Francisco. When we cut to the third commercial break, we asked this trivia question. What soccer player changed his number from 28 to 24 to 7 to 10 and finally 23 out of admiration for Michael Jordan? And the answer was David Beckham, the soccer player. And let's see here, we are going to talk next week about professional athletes filing tax returns in each state that they play, that obviously the state has an income tax. Also, we'll discuss about how spring training, obviously baseball we're talking there, has a special tax haven for their players. How about referees showing favoritisms to certain teams? We'll discuss various situations where that happened. Tiger Woods, now that he's gotten his golf game back, are his sponsors willing to come back? We'll also talk about women competing with men. There are definitely some sports where women are competing equally, such as Danica Patrick in driving, NASCAR. And then we also had a situation where a woman won a bowling tournament, where she actually won the tournament champions. But when we talk about basketball and football and baseball, we want to talk about whether or not the women can compete as equally as the men. I want to thank my co-hosts, Bruce McGowan and Vern Glenn, for joining me yet again. And also our sponsor, who is IRA Services Trust Company, providing self-directed retirement accounts with more choices and diversification among the lowest fees in the industries. Now, I personally use them to hold my diversified IRA. You need to check them out at iraservices.com. They give you the best service, and they have the lowest fees in the industry for handling retirement accounts. Here's our thoughts for the day. In 1980, a Las Vegas hospital suspended workers for betting on when patients would die. I can just imagine hearing these guys, "Come on, 7, Daddy needs a new pair of shoes." And if they didn't invent electricity, we'd all be watching television by candlelight. How about that? Tune in next week to Sports Econ 101, where we discuss sports topics from a business perspective, and we'll be giving away free vacations again for answering sports trivia questions. Thanks for listening. On behalf of our team, I'm Edward Brown. We'll see you next week. So long.